Now we're already used to Lian Li doing some crazy innovative stuff that actually have meaning in terms of functionality, airflow, cooling and all the other stuff, right? Well, this case right here is definitely one of my favorite cases starting today because, well, it's totally different. It's something that you wouldn't expect, but we saw it on Computex 2023, so it was bound down to be released at some point. Well, this right here is Lian Li SUP01 and it comes in two colors, black and white. And taking everything into consideration, I can clearly say and without a doubt that this is one of my favorite cases. Now, the cool thing about this build, this case in general, is that it's clean. It's really clean. I mean, even with the backside here having radiator and fans and all the other stuff, you have so much Velcro ties to tie up those cables to make it look nice, and of course for the cables not to touch the propellers of the fan. It's just outstanding. The way you build, you do have to have a certain, let's say, certain steps of building inside this case, but all in all, I'm really satisfied. Now, we're going to break it down with this case because there is going to be a bit longer video, of course. But all in all, what I can say right from the start, outstanding performance, outstanding design, outstanding looks when you finish it up. And they thought of everything, literally. So this case is going to amaze you. Let's start with the most important thing is the GPU mount is on front and you don't have anything additionally blowing inside the GPU, cooling or anything else. GPU is, well, basically doing the same thing as in A3M-ATX when it's in vertical position, collecting air from the front and cooling it by itself, so no additional fans are creating airflow for it, and believe me, there is literally no need. Now, when we go next, you have possibility to place a fairly long GPU. In those terms, 4-slot thick, 380 millimeters of length, and you can adjust it to go up to 400 millimeters of length. Now, there's also a possibility, and of course this was quite logical of them to create, you have horizontal and vertical adjustments here on front above the power on button, and you just have to use a screwdriver to untie one screw just a bit to adjust and center the GPU perfectly. This gives you an option to, well, basically a possibility to have a GPU perfectly aligned there. Then we go with the brace bracket on top, which kind of also can adjust the GPU, but in terms of stability, so the GPU doesn't move anywhere or does it bend or flex or whatever. This is really nice, and I do have to admit. Now, when we go with the connection part, at the back near the power supply, you have some rubber grommet where you push your HDMI and DisplayPort cables and push them through the GPU. Believe me, this is done outstandingly nice, because when you remove the backside mesh panel, you can just reroute the cable, connect it here because you have loads of opening here in front of the GPU at the bottom, and from the backside giving you access to your ports without any problems, which is quite nice. And then we go with, since I mentioned the mesh part, it's all mesh except for the side tempered glass, so you have front, top and back side, complete mesh. And the strange thing, the only strange thing, since this is fine mesh, you do get dust filters on front and top, magnetic ones, and at the bottom for the power supply you have it with just push-pull combination, in terms of you can pull it out, push it in with a lever, and that's it. Now for the motherboard supports, it supports ITX, micro ATX and ATX, but ATX can also be supported with back connect. So they really did quite nice job with all of that, and the thing is, it really does fit properly. I think you can even squeeze, I think you can, an eATX motherboard, but they didn't state that because it will most likely cover these rubber grommets, since they aren't just like on the 011D Evo RGB, they aren't angled, they are right here on front. You can't push the cables on the back side. You could, but there are no rubber grommets, and you'll have to fiddle around just a bit to manage that. But there is a possibility to do that, just you'll have to think about the cabling and the placement and everything all together. Now, when we're talking about accessing the whole case, and everything is basically on pegs. So you have the front panel on pegs, the top, side, and the side tempered glass, which is really straightforward. You don't have to actually wiggle around with the screwdriver too much. The only thing that you need to tie up with screws is the GPU, graphic card, power supply, well, basically the main components. And the back side, when we're accessing the top part to actually place the AIO, you have the possibility to remove two back panels. One is holding three 120mm fans that are pre-installed with the case, and one that holds the radiator. It would be quite interesting to place two radiators in terms of going with a custom loop, but I have an idea for this case that I think I might actually go with it, because this is how much I love this case. This is how much it impressed me. And of course, when we're talking about Lian Li and the final finish and the all visual aspects, altogether, it's really outstanding. The cool thing about it is that those panels at the back have some sort of a rubber feet. So when you remove the screws, and this is the only thing that you'll actually have to use the screws for the case, to remove the panel to push the pump block top and this bar right here at the top, giving you access to reroute the tubes, use the Velcro tie to tie them up here at the back, so you have complete clearance of the rams if you're going with an RGB rams, and of course the pump block top is clear, visible, and that's quite outstanding. Now the Galahad 2 LCD of course has those 360 tubes, so you can manage the bending of the tubes quite nicely. It's really done properly. The back panels are also attached with the screws, so you can actually, you have to use the screwdriver to remove them, but that's all. I think it's like 8 screws to actually remove the top panel, remove the side panels, and do all the radiator and fan mounting. Now, before you go with those fans and everything, what I would suggest is placing the motherboard first. Then when you go and place the motherboard and everything, processor, RAMs and all the other stuff, place the power supply and do the cable management, because you'll have loads of clearance at the back to tie up all the cables with the Velcro tie, giving you access basically just let's say seamlessly placing the cables in the Velcro ties. No obstruction with the well, basically you can't do the cable management if you place the radiator and the fans. And then when you finish that, place the AIO, do the cable management for the, I don't know, for the Type-C connection here, for the PWM, addressable RGB and all the other stuff, and then finally place the GPU. I did it in an opposite way a bit, so I placed the GPU prior to the fans, but that doesn't obstruct too much because I really wanted to tie up the cable for the GPU properly before I actually placed the fans and everything else all together. Now the main chamber has CPU cooling limit at up to 88mm of height, and you have expansion card slots up to low profile cards, and you have then 7, which one of those is occupied with the riser. Now for the GPU, SUP01 is equipped with 510mm long PCI Gen 4 riser cable, which is already mounted, and you just have to basically connect it to your motherboard and connect it to your GPU. The cool thing about it, it has a nice diffused LED, pairs up nicely with the case, and if you go with the Galahad 2 LCD and rotate the pump as I did, you have like 4 lines going nicely throughout the case, which is quite nice. The brackets at the back, we also have some specs for that. So the closer to the rear panel is the bracket for the CPU AIO, which can support 3 120mm fans or up to 360, 280 or 240 radiator with total thickness of 76mm. Bracket 2 is located closer to the center and can support 3 120 or 2 140 fans, which basically gives you an option for doing that. At the back we have more Velcro ties at the back side of the case, 4 of those, because the motherboard I/O panel is located in the middle. So if you have some cables running to the motherboard, for instance, if you have a wired keyboard, wired mouse or whatever, you use those cables, tie them up nicely with the Velcro ties so it all looks tidy at the back as well. And since we're at the back, you have rear panel with 120mm external fan bracket, which you can place it for additional intake. You can place a power supply up to 220 millimeters, which is of course nicely designed, and you wouldn't even notice it. But it can be placed with removing the mounting plate, and that's all there is to it. Storage. At the bottom, you have a cage that supports two 2.5-inch SSDs or two 3.5-inch hard drives. And when you remove this mirror effect right here on the power supply shroud, you have a possibility to place two 2.5-inch SSDs additionally. Now for the I/O panel, we have LED control buttons. So M button is if you want to switch it to the next light, you press once, hold for 3 seconds to sync with the motherboard, or basically turn off the sync for the motherboard. The C button, if you press it once, you switch the color scheme of each lighting effect, so 6 color options, and hold for 3 seconds to enter or exit static mode. For the LED counts, we have 9 LEDs on the riser cable, we have 13 LEDs on the front strip and 25 LEDs on the side strip. We have loads of options when we're talking about RGB effects, so you have mode 2 for the rainbow gradient, which is default. Then we have 2 color static combo options, rainbow flow with 10 colors from rear to the front, meteor shower, rubber band, stacking, and quite a lot, I do have to say. For the I/O ports, we have 2 USB 3.0, USB Type-C, audio jack, which is a combo 3.5mm 4-pole, and we have color control buttons, as already stated. The interesting thing and what they did, and it's quite cool, I do have to say, Lian Li logo on the front is created as a power on button and a reset button. So yeah, this is quite outstanding, I do have to say. Kind of subtle placement of the power on button, without a doubt. And finally, what you can expect of the price, the black and white version, MSRP $149. One thing I did forgot, and basically it is time to mention that, is the benchmark. So AIDA 64 Extreme Edition CPU with 7900 X3D and Galahad 2 LCD 360, 85 degrees with clock speed 4850, while the GPU, stays at 66 as in all other cases I reviewed recently, and this is outstanding because there is no difference. The GPU is fixed at 66 and this is great. We're talking about RTX 4080 gaming exterior from MSI. And then Cinebench scores, thermals go from 84, then it eventually touches 85 and it goes down to 82. Clock speeds from 4975 to 5050, and this is great because the score for the Cinebench points 26,583. It starts there and then it kind of wiggles around and it pushes up to 26,700. I bet it can go even higher because the last one went up to 26,833. All in all, what I can say is this case is, for me personally, really appealing, and I'm quite interested in doing something specific with this one. The cool thing, what I noticed is that if for some reason you want to go with a custom loop here, and this is just my idea, sharing it with you, if you go for two 360 radiators, and if it's possible to know to do a perfect cable management, and then GPU water cooled. Now, the one thing that I would do here is, if of course you go with a GPU that is water cooled, it would look nice if it had the front tempered glass. That will look outstanding, and maybe, I don't know, Lian Li decides to go with an additional accessory for that, if somebody actually decides to go with a custom loop inside. And well, I won't share all the ideas, but this case looks outstanding without a doubt. Thermals are there, you don't have to worry about that, and of course the scores are there also, and the visual aspect clean totally. Even the tubes are done nicely. This, I'm just speechless. So first of all, I can't give it a performance badge because this is the same thing that all other Lian Li cases do, and let's be honest, A3 did the same with the benchmarks. But what I can do is give this case a PC Crazy Hall of Fame badge, without a doubt, and PC Crazy Approved badge. This case really is something outstanding, and really loving the whole aspect of it, the position of the GPU, this mirror effect, well, basically the mirror that was placed on the power supply shroud to cover up 2.5-inch SSDs, the flexibility of the tubes here where you could hide them nicely to have a clean access, and imagine actually going with back connect here, hiding all these cables, 24 pin. Okay, I like the 24 pin here, don't get me wrong, but the addressable RGB and the PWM and all the other stuff, and the cool thing with the Velcro ties at the back to hide the cables and nicely arrange them here at the back as well. Guys, this is it. This is Lian Li SUP01. The links for the black and white version are in the description below. You don't have to grab any additional fans because the 3 fans that are inside the case are enough. You just have to add an AIO and rest of the components. That is it. So I'll add the AIO as well in the description, and that will be all for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, click the notification bell for future content coming up quite shortly because it's Computex time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.